إن رزقك العلم لدني والمشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. You can hear me, right? Now and clear again. You can hear me. Okay, we'll start with our book first. Inshallah, once I think soon I want to start classes physically again. Like once the laws are lightened, and we can gather again, in someone's house and start again physical classes. And see lah what is the best timing for most people. Because I know a lot of you have entered into, a lot of you are now in secondary school or upper secondary. I getting more and more busy, or some of you are in even primary 6, right? More and more work to do, right? Getting more and more busy. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, let me just share screen to continue from where we left off. Okay, here. Alright. Okay, we're gonna start with this book first, right? The book by Sister Fadila Wahid. So we're gonna read from the next chapter. Let me just take the picture and share. Yeah, and then stop sharing this one. I'll take a picture and I will share from the book, right, so that you all can refer to the book. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad. We are at the place area chapter. We finished giving everything is due, right? Why? Okay, we are chapter number 22. Chapter number 22. We are at the why I stopped shoving my beliefs down others' throats, right? Other people's throats. Right? We're on page number 66. For those of you who have the book, you can refer there. If you don't have the book, then I will just share the page so that we can read together the book and we can reflect on what she has said. Hope everybody has their book with them. Hope everyone is okay. Anyone has any questions or not? Like from school or from your friends or anyone? Anyone ever ask you any questions about your beliefs or things may not know how to answer and things they ask you? Anything that anyone has ever asked you a question and you're not so sure how to answer, then you can just bring it to me. Right? I can and I will help you out. In how do we answer these questions, right? Especially if if it has to do with what we believe in, or why must we do what we do lah as Muslims. Like if they ask why must Muslims do this or do that or whatever, like then you can just tell me, then I will answer the questions for you. Right? Inshallah, like for me, this I will be meeting. I do meet people who are teenagers, and sometimes they have a lot of questions, right, about laws in Islam, and especially when they are friends or at school, especially for those who are in secular school. If you meet non-Muslim friends, right, that they tend to ask questions, or they tend to even question things, right, about Islam, and it might be difficult to answer sometimes, right? That you don't know what's the correct answer or how do you answer, but you just know that that's what you're told, and as a Muslim, and everything in Islam there is an answer to it, inshallah. Okay, let me just share screen first. Inshallah, I will be posting on the group. Like a poll lah, on what day and time people want or people prefer, right? Especially when now school has reopened. Okay, here. And today, inshallah, we'll do a bit more sirah. I think it's been some time since we went through the video of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam again. Okay, alright. Why I stopped shoving my beliefs down others' throats. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So she says, I used to get so worked up about different causes, like really worked up. You get very frustrated, like worked up, meaning very, very, like flustered or frustrated, and because of certain things, like crazy lady with laser eyes, worked up. Right? You can imagine her saying this lah. It's kind of like get very angry and people disagree with them, like, and then like pew pew pew. She wrote it down, like shooting everybody, like in her way, if anybody disagrees with her. And so we all must know. So like if especially when people in around us, they ask all these questions. Recently I had someone ask a question about now it's a growing thing amongst, I don't know about madrasah. I hope not in the madrasahs, but I think in secular school, even from my time in secular school, like about LGBT, right? It's a thing whereby Muslims have come to a point. In my time, at least, the Muslims were still averse to it, right? They were still staying away from it, but there were a lot of Muslims were involved in it, right? But in secondary school, especially secondary school, all girls school, that kind of thing, right? But once they go to JC only, then they start looking the natural way, and towards the opposite gender, right? And then eventually when you go to university, they want to get married already, right? So there's a natural progression lah for most people, right? But recently I got a lot of questions from youngsters about why Islam doesn't allow for this, and it's they ask all these kind of questions, right? So sometimes we get very worked up, right? When you get very frustrated, like why ask all these kind of questions, right? But mashallah, is the way this dunya is, and people want to know, right? Why this, why that, especially when it comes to being a Muslim. And Rasulullah said in a hadith that Islam will come strange. When Islam appeared in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was strange. And people found it to be a very strange thing, because Muslims control their nafsu, right? Muslims don't just do whatever they feel like doing, or they don't eat whatever they feel like eating, or they don't sleep right through the night till the morning. Right? The Muslims were forced, and we are forced. Right? It's wajib, so it's called wajib. Right? Wajib means you're forced. Right? You're forced to wake up. Right? For subuh, you must wake up for subuh. You must pray zuhur. You must pray asar. And that is at the very minimum. Then when Ramadan comes around, you must fast Ramadan. Right? And then when it comes to our dressing, that is where a lot of youngsters, a lot of Muslims, even for the older ones, they find it very difficult because it's very different. Everybody else is dressing up in a different way, and then we as Muslims, we dress up in a different way. Right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith, that Islam will come strange, and Islam will end strange. So good news to the strangers, right? So it will come strange in his time. When Islam first emerged, in his time, it was strange, and people saw it as a strange thing. Like, why are these people controlling themselves and stopping themselves and having limits on themselves, right? And dressing up in a particular way? Like, why are they so forgiving? Why are they so giving? Why are they so gentle? It's supposed to be that way in the Muslims, mashallah. And then after a while, Islam became the norm, because Islam spread, so it became the norm. And then towards the end of time, where we are right now, right, we are living in the end of time, Islam is becoming strange again. It's people are seeing this kind of dressing, right, to be strange. Right? So when I remember when I was in school, secondary school, my school was TKJS, and so TKJS, they had TKJS pens. Right? Mashallah, it was good lah. It was easier. They had TKJS pens with TKJS logo on the pens, so I could just buy that, and then I could just wear that for PE. Right? But when I was in primary school, I used to wear pens also, right, for PE. My mother would sew for me track pens. Wear track pens for PE. Right? But you'll be the only one in school. It'll be strange. Everybody else wearing shorts, and you're the only one wearing pants. Or like even in DKJS, everybody's wearing shorts, and you're the only one wearing pants. And when I go into JC, I wore black track pants. The school allowed for black track pants, right, in JC. Then you're the only one You're the only one during PE wearing on National Harmony Day. Or back then they used to allow. I think now they don't allow anymore for National Harmony Day. Back then my time, they used to allow us to wear a hijab to school. You can wear a full hijab to school, and you be the only one in the entire class, or the entire level. You're the only one. It's strange, right? Islam began strange, and Islam will end strange, and good news to the strangers. Right? So it's okay to be strange. We are supposed to be strange because those who believe in the akhirah, they are not the same as those who don't believe in the akhirah. Right? Those who live life just for the dunya, they are not the same as those who live life and everything that you do, you're seeing how will this help me or how will this harm me on my akhirah, right, in the next world. Okay, so she says here, I'm going to continue her story, okay? Any commentary or whatever, you all can just comment, okay? You can just put it on a chat. You don't have to like wait for questions. You can just comment, right, if you have any things to say. So she said, when I first found out about the atrocities happening in Palestine, I spent days just reading and researching, falling ill because of the knots that were tightening in my heart. How could this happen? Why isn't the Muslim world doing anything about it? I came across the boycott, divestment and sanctions, right, BDS movement, and I began striking brand after brand off my list. I was just basically not wanting to support Israel, right, and wanting and being in support of Palestine, right? So any brand that is connected to Israel, that she began to strike off, and she will not buy from these people. So Starbucks, McDonald's, Nestle, out, like all of it, out, boycott, all of these brands. Then I set out to get everyone involved and force everybody on this. It's going to be difficult because a lot of people are into Nestle, and Nestle is everywhere. Even in Singapore, Nestle everywhere, chocolate, ice creams, all Nestle. And then McDonald's also. At least in Singapore, Starbucks is not halal. It's not halal, right, for Starbucks. I know Coffee Bean is halal. Right, so at least Singapore, Starbucks, even though there are Muslims working there, but there's no halal sign at Starbucks, if you notice. Right? If am I wrong? Can someone correct me if I'm wrong. I know for certain Coffee Bean has halal sign. Starbucks in Singapore has no halal sign, but a lot of Muslims work there. But it has no halal sign. And they because people see Muslims working there, that they begin to buy from Starbucks. But the thing about it is that sometimes people say, but it's just coffee, what? It's coffee, it's just cake, it's just, I won't buy the pies or the meat, all that. They will say these kind of things. You know where the non-halal part comes in? The non-halal part comes in with vanilla. Right? Vanilla has alcohol. Right? So there are some types of vanilla that is in alcohol, and they use that kind of vanilla for their ice cream and for their flavoring and for their coffees. Right? So and there's vanilla, right, that is non-alcohol. There's two types of vanilla. Right? So when you buy the halal ice cream, halal ice cream uses vanilla that has no alcohol. Right? The non-halal ice cream, right, tends to use vanilla that has alcohol. Right? So even though it's a small amount, it's still alcohol. Right? So he's wondering, how come some ice cream got halal sign, some actually got no halal sign? Right? Because some ice cream would use a different type of vanilla, and also because of they use sometimes they use butter, they use fat or whatever of different animals. So that's where the non-halal comes in, right? From different animals. So when you think about it, right, doesn't mean that just because something is vegetarian that it is halal, right? Because halal includes no alcohol. Vegetarian allows alcohol, right? Vegetarians drink alcohol. And Muslims, so that when you talk about Muslims, you talk about vegetarian, you talk about vegan, all these things, right? So a lot of Muslims think that, just because got vegetarian sign, it means halal. No, it doesn't mean halal. It just means vegetarian, right? No one's saying that there is no alcohol in there. There could be alcohol, especially for chocolate and ice cream. There could be alcohol in there. Right? So just be very careful. Don't just think that, vegetarian, therefore halal. No, I don't think that. Even when they cook, also they will pour wine into their cooking, and they will cook with wine, right, to get the flavor out. Right? So don't think, it's an all fish and chip shop. It's just fish and it's just vegetables. It should be fine. You don't know whether they're using wine, right, with the fish. They tend to use beer and they use wine when they cook fish. Right? So very careful, like Muslims. Right? Don't just think just because fish and vegetables all halal. Right? They never cancel out alcohol for you. Right? Alcohol is still there. Right? So we be all extra level. Alcohol, no. Right? Zero. No for alcohol. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Anyway, I have to point that out because I've been seeing more and more Muslims going to Starbucks. Like, stay away. Unless you're in Malaysia. In Malaysia, I think got halal sign. Singapore got no halal sign, I think. If anybody knows there's this halal sign for Singapore, tell me, okay? But I think, as far as I know, I think don't have, right? So don't know. I never go also. But I know coffee bean got. Okay, so anyway, so Starbucks, McDonald's, Nestle, out. McDonald's also itself is don't think that when you go overseas that all McDonald's is halal. Right, it's only Singapore McDonald's halal, Malaysia McDonald's halal. I went to Thailand last time. They have McPork. So don't just go to Thailand McDonald's and just buy from the McDonald's there. It's not halal down there at the McDonald's. They have pork in there. They have all kinds of. Their chicken's not halal. Right, so don't just think McDonald's means halal. Only Singapore and Malaysia, Indonesia. Right, you go to other. Even when you go to the US, to America, you go to Australia, there are parts but it's not halal. Right, you go in there, their animals are not halal. So don't think just because it's that brand is halal. So be very careful about halal. Like our teachers say that those who eat what is haram, their bodies will do what is haram. Right? If you eat haram, you will do haram acts. Right? But if you eat halal, you will do halal acts. Right? If you find somebody finds it difficult to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to obey the laws of Islam, that means they're eating too much makruh food, either makruh or haram food. Right? So because they're eating all this kind of food, so it's difficult for them to wake up for subuh. It's very difficult for them to pray Isha. Right? They want to pray Asar also lazy, Maghrib also lazy. Right? Why? Because the body is so full of all kinds of makruh and haram food. And so then they just become very lazy about ibadah, about worship. So she said, then I set out to get everyone involved. I remember walking around town with my cousin when we passed by Starbucks. Her eyes turned glassy and she stopped in her tracks, scanning the menu in the window. It's in Malaysia. That's why she's talking about this. It's in Malaysia. I squirmed, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. Let's flip this. Okay, in my chest. Say, babe, a percentage of the proceeds from Starbucks goes to the Israel army, you know. Right, so the first thing she said to her cousin, even though it's halal, they're supporting the Israel army. You shouldn't be buying from Starbucks. And then she says, should I get mocha or Java chip? She completely ignored whatever her cousin said. And she said, do you hear what I said? When you buy Starbucks, you are supporting the genocide happening in Israel. Java chip it is. My cousin grinned, eyes wide open, giving me the why should I care look. 5 minutes later, she bounced out of the cafe, a cup of Java chip in hand. It used to be my favorite drink, right, from Starbucks. And then she continued with her cousin. She said, every sip you're drinking is a bullet through a Palestinian child's head. I mocked, making this is being, you said, like in Malay Cindy, like being very sarcastic, right, with her. Very sarcastic. You just drinking all these things and supporting a war, right? She said, both furious and disappointed by her devil may care attitude. She stopped walking, turned to face me, and made a long, deliberate slip. This coffee is so delicious. I wanted to shoot a bullet through her head. It's getting very annoying, the cousin. Fast forward a year later, I was facing an audience of 40, including a lecturer I highly respected. I had just concluded a 15-minute presentation on the dinar and dirham movement. And there's all things that happened in the past. People tried to, push people away from using paper money and used gold and silver coins, like how it was in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People tried to do it that way. So some people were influenced, and some people, they just, you can't survive in this world without using paper money. And now even more, it has to be in your bank. Like how you want to buy or purchase things online if you don't have a bank account. You can't buy things online. So she spoke about the dinar and the dirham movement, ending with a strong call for those in the class to change their existing ideas about fiat money, basically paper money. Paper money. It was one of my best presentations. I was on a roll. I turned off the slides. Any questions? Right, she asked very confidently. The dirham coin I had brought to the class was passed around and was now in my lecturer's hands, and I watched as he inspected it against the light. The coin was a beauty, a simple circle with an image of the Kaaba engraved in the center. Okay, so what happened next? The class was quiet, but I could see the students' minds just buzzing with thoughts. A hand surfaced from the back of the class. Yes? You mentioned that the banking system is essentially haram, and the right way to go is by returning to the dinar and the dirham. Dinar and dirham basically is gold and silver coins. There are people last time who used to say that you cannot get involved with banks, you cannot have your money in the bank, you cannot have all these cashless purchases, you cannot have there were people who were saying all that. But of course you can see in our day right now it didn't work. Right? People still need cash money, paper money, right, to buy things. Right? So he says, so she said that, but what about the Islamic banking system? Why can't we just use that? Right? There are Islamic banks. Even in Singapore, there are Islamic banks. So I had anticipated that question. It was one of the first things I asked when I began my own journey learning about Islamic finance. My mind began scanning through the different texts I read. Brrr, ka-ching, I found it. As one of the sheikhs supporting the movement says this: Islamic banking, even though it contains the word Islam, is just as guilty of riba. Riba is usury or interest rates, as the conventional banks. If you build a musalla inside a brothel, doesn't make the brothel Islamic, right? You put a musalla in the brothel. A brothel is a place whereby they have a lot of red light activities. So zina, a lot of prostitution is there, at the brothel. So the answer sucked the air out of the room. It hung there, hovering in the space between the ears, unsure of where to go. My lecturer raised his eyebrows. I couldn't figure out if he was angry or amused, right? If he, understood if he agreed or disagreed. He walked to the front of the class, motioning me to take a seat. Once again, facing the students, he looked at me directly in the eye and said, "You are still a student. Learn to learn. And learning means be objective, not to be fanatic. And don't be obsessive, right? But to have a wide point of view, or a wide world view, to see things from many different perspectives, many different angles. There is a lot of khilaf and differences in opinion. The scholars discuss about this a lot. It's not just one answer. It's a lot of things that the scholars say. So you see in our time, all over the world, Muslims are using paper money and coins. And in fact, right now, we're hardly even using paper money anymore. We're using card. I'm using card to buy things. You just buy things online, kan? Just order things. And it's changing. The whole world is changing. So he said, about this matter, right, so there's a lot of khilaf about this matter, so perhaps you should read more before quoting a statement like that to the class. And be careful about what you say, and because there are people who do not agree with what you say. So she said, I still got an A for the presentation, but I felt like I deserved a C. I've learned that there are two ways of sharing your beliefs and what you hold on to. Inshallah. So I begin the class by speaking about, if people have ever asked you, about your beliefs, what do you say? Are you forceful about it, or you just gently speak about it? A few weeks ago, one of my students around my age, in her 30s, her son, who is 6 years old, around there, 6 or 5 years old, was invited to his neighbor's Christmas party. Right, so she messaged me, and she said that, oh, my son has been invited to a Christmas party by the neighbor lah. The neighbor invited, so it's neighborliness, right? And he is all set to tell his neighbor that the all about the Christmas tree, and they shouldn't have a Christmas tree, and they shouldn't be praying to Jesus, and they should be praying to Allah, and it's all correct what he's saying, right? But so she was panicking. She was saying, what do I say to my son? He's only 5 years old or 6 years old. He's gonna say everything clearly and bluntly to the Christian neighbor. Like, what do you say? Right, so that you should, that he was going to say, the tree is all not real, right? There is, and then he's going to say there's no cross, and he's going to say there is no, and he's going to say all these things, which of course, if you go into your neighbor's party, right, that's not the most pleasant way of coming to a party lah, right? Going there and just insulting everybody, and then going out. Right, nobody is gonna like Muslims from that point on, because they're so negative, right, and they're so judgmental, right, on other people. Right, so she asked me, what do I say to my son? What do I say? Because you can't say tell him not to say, right, but what do you say? So I said to her, well, if he really wants to share, right, with his neighbor, then he can just ask them if they would like to share with him, about their religion, and he can share with them about his religion. So just talk about your own religion, and you don't criticize other people. And so you just you just to him that, okay, we believe in one God, right? He's the one who creates everything, and we believe in all the prophets, right? And Jesus to us is a prophet, right? And we have a last prophet, and that is Muhammad. Right, so he can go it that way because he's 5 or 6 years old. Right, so and if they want to share, they can share, and they can say, oh, but we believe that Jesus is God. So maybe they might say that. Say, oh, we believe different. Oh, you believe different. Okay, dah. Right, it's different, and we're different. We're not the same. So you don't say, oh, you're correct, I'm wrong, and I'm wrong, and correct. But I believe this, and you want to believe that, right? Of course, because they're Christian, they're not Muslims, they're Christians. That's why they're Christians. If they believe in one God, and they believe that Nabi Isa is a prophet, then they're Muslims, right? And if they believe that Nabi Muhammad is a prophet, then that makes them Muslim, kan? Right? They're no longer Christian anymore, correct? Right, so anyway, I told her to just say that to him, and tell him to, instead of attacking other people, you just share what you believe. That's it. And so you don't have to attack what other people believe, but you share what you believe. If you want to share lah. And if they want to hear, they can hear. And if they want to share, then you just hear. So she said here, right, 2 ways of sharing your beliefs. The first is to shove your truth down others' throats, force them to believe in what you believe, and force them to swallow it, whether they like it or not, or whether they are ready for it or not. That's the second one. The first one, and this is how sometimes, unfortunately, when we teach Islam to our youngsters, right, to the young ones, even to ourselves, that sometimes Islam is forced without much explanation. And then so when people grow older, it is easy for them to just walk away from Islam, right, and to turn away from Islam, because they never felt the attachment and the connection and the love that is in Islam, or the passion in Islam. Right, so that goes back to the fault of a teacher. The teacher was the one who didn't explain things well, right, to the students. Right, so the first way, if you're just forced, and with a lot of anger and frustration and violence, like go and pray or go and fast and cover your aurat and this and that, like very, very harsh, right, way of bringing people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course people run away, right? Who wants to hang around those who are horrid, always grouchy. And who wants to learn ngaji or learn the Quran if the ngaji teacher is forever beating those who are learning? No one likes being beaten. So we need to be gentle with how we bring people or bring Islam to the people. So the second one is to lay out your truth. So you lay out what you believe in and leave it to others to make the decision whether to accept it. Right? So you just lay it out and let them decide whether they want to do it or not. So you mention, they ask you what's the law of this, you mention this is the law, right? And then they said okay, and then I said, and inshallah you get there someday, right? So like if you're praying Zuhur in school, you say to your friend, like, come, let's pray Zuhur. If your friend says maybe I pray at home lah, or I don't really pray Zuhur, you don't sit there and you force her and you pull her and you say, oh, you must pray. If you don't pray, and you mention all the the punishments and everything, you can do that, right? But you can do it nicely lah. Don't do it so violently, right, to other people. But after a while, if they still don't want to, you can't force people. But they will have to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, right? They must answer. So at the end of the day, everybody has their own kubur and in their own grave. And in their own grave, they will answer the questions in the grave. Right? So all that we are doing is that we are inviting. Right? So da'wah, a sheikh once said, the word da'wah means to invite. When you da'wah to people, you are inviting them. When you invite someone to your home, you don't kidnap them and force them to drink your tea. You don't force them to come to your house. Right? They have a choice. They want to come, they come. They don't want to come, they don't want to come. It's up to them. And whenever they want to leave, they can leave. It's up to them. Right? But of course, we are all the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even if whatever we decide to do in life, there are consequences. And we will have to answer to who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just Him. We're not going to answer to our parents. We're not going to answer to our father, to our mother, to our teachers, to our ustazah. No. We're going to answer to one. Just one. And that is our creator. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if someone lies, right, then the lying, who is going to answer? Right? If someone cheats, you're going to answer to who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So she says here, right, the word da'wah means to invite. When you invite someone to your home, you don't kidnap them and force them to drink your tea. Also, I use the phrase your truth because unless something is black and white, like clear-cut haram and halal, as agreed by all the scholars. Like for example, if someone were to say pork, right? So pork is obviously haram. And nobody can say, oh, some people say it's halal. No, not possible. Right? Pork is haram. Finish. Full stop. There's no discussion. Right? Alcohol, haram. Nobody can say, oh no, alcohol is actually okay. Some types of alcohol, no, all types of alcohol is haram. You cannot drink alcohol, right, as Muslims. Or if someone said, you just have to pray like twice a day. It's okay, good enough. No, you have to pray 5 times a day. You have to get there. Pray 5 times a day. Right? So things that are clear cut. Right? Clear cut. However, things that are not clear cut. Right? Like when she was talking about banking and buying gold and silver. It's not clear cut. There are people who say you can very well. Right? Or things like certain foods where it's not clearly halal or haram. Right? So like some people, they read the ingredients and they see, well, the ingredients are all okay. There's no alcohol. There's no all this, animal derivatives, no E471, no nothing. It's just chocolate, and then there is like, so they will say there's milk, there's sugar, right? So they read the ingredients and they say the ingredients looks fine, but no halal sign. There's no halal sign on the chocolate. So can someone clearly say it's haram? You can't say it's haram, right? You cannot say it's haram, but can someone clearly say it's halal? You also cannot say clearly that it's halal. If somebody wants to eat it, they can eat it based on what they read of the ingredients. If someone does not want to eat it, they can choose not to eat it because they they feel there's no halal sign, they're not so sure, right? So they stay away, right? But each of them cannot blame the other. So one can't say, you eat, not halal things, and then the other one say, you're being too rigid, too strict, right? Both cannot blame each other because it's something that is vague, right? There is the ingredients looks fine, but there's no chop. So those who are the halal chop people, right? They will not eat it. Those who are the read ingredients people, they will eat it, and both cannot say the other one is wrong. They both cannot say that. Right, it's basically your choice and what you want to do. Right, so but things like, as I mentioned, right, things whereby it's possible that there is alcohol in there, especially if you don't read the ingredients. Right, so if you don't read the ingredients, then don't eat it lah. Right, there's no ingredients given to you, don't eat it. Right, it's that the Muslim must know what is in the ingredients. Okay. And don't quote me, don't say Ustazah Fana say that things that got no halal sign can eat. I'm just saying that if those people who choose to eat it because they read ingredients and they think that it's fine, you cannot say to them that they are wrong, right? So that for me, that I would prefer to go by halal sign. Right? It's safer. Just go by halal sign, right? But if let's say someone says, but you read the ingredients, okay, what? Right? Then okay lah. Up to them. It's up to them. I can't say to them, it's haram. How? What's my proof? Do I know that there is alcohol or pork in there? I don't know. I can't tell. Right? But I can tell that things like Starbucks, there's no halal sign, and you don't know what's the ingredients, and no one told you what's the ingredients. So that one, you must stay away because you don't know. Right? There's no clear cut, black and white, like what is inside there. Somebody asked a good question. What are the foods that are considered makruh? What is makruh food? And so makruh food, actually unhealthy foods. All unhealthy food is makruh. So if you eat a lot of junk food, a lot of snacking, sugar, fatty food, all of these things, right, is makruh. Why? Makruh food is basically food that is not good for you. It's not tayyib. As Muslims, we eat halal and tayyib. Tayyib means good food. Right? So when we eat good food, we eat halal food. If you don't eat tayyib, like if you eat chips, snack on gassy drinks, of course it's halal. Right? Gassy drinks are halal, but it's not good for you lah. It's bad for you. Right? To eat KitKat every day. KitKat in the morning, KitKat in the evening, KitKat at night. You cheesecake all day long. It's all makruh. You can eat once in a while, but you can't keep eating it every single time. Makes you unhealthy. Right? Sarcasm. Is sarcasm haram? Okay, sarcasm, if it is mocking people, yes, it's haram. Mocking people is haram. Right? So sarcasm, especially if it hurts people's feelings, right? That's haram. Hurting other people's feelings is haram. You want to realize that when you say something that your tongue is so sharp, your lidah so sharp, you say something to your sibling or to your friend, and you hurt their feelings. You know it. The way you say it confirms their hurt, right? But you said it anyway, right? And you know they're going to feel hurt anyway, right? That one is haram. You're not supposed to do that. Okay, the believer is gentle with his tongue. Rasulullah said that the believer does not hurt others with his hand, or the believer is the one that others are protected from his hand and his tongue, right? So they're not sharp and hurtful, right, with their words, and the believers are not. Okay. Then she said, but it's your truth, right? So then it's not the truth, but it's your truth. You decide what's your truth. So you can't force people on it. It means scholars have differing opinions about it. So accept that different people can carry different opinions. Your truth may be the truth. Their truth may be the truth. Both of your truths may be the truth. Allahu Alam, Allah knows. So a lot of things in life we just don't know, right? What is the ruling? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith that differences in opinion in this ummah or in his ummah are a blessing. That some say in this way is okay, some say in that way is okay, right? So of course, in the Sharia, you have all kinds of rulings, right? So there are those who say wearing colorful clothes is okay. There are those who say no, you should wear dull clothing, right? So Alhamdulillah, there are scholars who say that, oh, because majority of the people in our country, they wear colorful clothing, so it's fine, it's normal. It's normal for people to wear colorful clothing, like in Singapore, especially when people go around wearing colorful clothing, it's fine, right? It's not an issue. But if you go to another country whereby the women there mainly wear black or wear dull colors, then you should not be wearing colorful clothing, because you are going to stand out, and you're going to be attracting attention, right? So you should be wearing clothing that is like these people, right? So that you don't break society up by your clothing, right? But in Singapore, people wear whatever they want to wear. No, mashallah. Okay, and a mujtahid. What is a mujtahid? A mujtahid is a learned scholar, like a knowledgeable person, who is allowed to call a ruling. It means allowed to say something is a ruling. Makes a judgment, and he gets it right, he gets 2 rewards. If another mujtahid makes a judgment and he gets it wrong, and he's trying his best, they're being sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but because they're human beings, they can make mistakes. It's possible. He does not sin, he gets 1 reward for trying, and for trying to figure out what's the ruling. So she said, I stopped shoving my beliefs down the throats of others, because in doing so, I insinuate that my truth is the only truth, and I tend to get all emotional and judgmental when others don't respond. Right? And she becomes very unpleasant person to be around. Nobody wants to be around her, because forever judging other people. Right? So stop doing that, right? Then she said, when I shove, I am committing an act of aggression, of hostility. I'm being hostile, I'm being aggressive, I'm being very fierce. I am coming from an elevated opinion of my own thoughts and beliefs, mistaking myself all high and mighty and all correct. And I am assuming that I am right and you are wrong. Instead, I should begin by laying down what I know and leave it to others to accept. And then I make dua for Allah to guide me if I am wrong. Like, we don't know who is wrong. And for Allah to guide them if they are wrong. And I'm still a student. I'm not a mujtahid. Right? I'm not someone who can decide what are the rulings in Islam. There's one question here. For girls, is cutting short hair haram? Depending on your intention, right? If your intention in having short hair is to look like a boy, then the one is haram, right? Because Rasulullah cursed. He said he cursed a woman who tried to look like men, and men who try to look like women. Right? But if your short hair is still feminine, you're not like trying to get to look like try and pass off as a boy, right? But you just like short hair. And like some people when you wear hijab, like for me also, I prefer short hair. I don't like long hair because very leceh. Want to comb, want to shampoo, everything very leceh. And my husband likes long hair, so I keep long hair. Right, but if I had my way before I got married, I cut my hair very short. Right, but it's not because I'm trying to look like a boy, of course not. Right, but it's more of it is easier lah. It's easier. So depending on your niyat, what is your niyat and what is your intention? If you're trying to imitate men, right? And there are women who try to imitate looking like men, they are cursed. And men who try to imitate looking like women, they are cursed. Right? So you cannot cross-dress, right? But you need to stay feminine, or for men, masculine. Right? That is important in Islam. Okay. Several months ago, I walked past Starbucks with the same cousin. I wanted to shoot in the head. I saw her looking in as if she wanted to stop and get some coffee. She continued walking, saying, "Nah, I read that they support Israel." She turned to me and curled her fingers into a mock pistol like that and said, "Pew!" I just got shot in the head. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gift us with wisdom in da'wah. Ameen. Right, authors note 3 years later, to further prove the above point about the Muslim opinion, today I no longer believe in the dinar and dirham movement I used to preach about. After further reading on the matter, coupled with developments in events, this does not mean the movement is wrong, Allahu Alam. It just means that my standing on it has changed. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to what is right and bring us away from falsehood. Ameen. Right? So basically, the whole point of this entire chapter is to be respectful. Right? Learn to be respectful towards other people. Right? Even if it's clear what is right and what is wrong, right, the way you present it has to be with a lot of adab, a lot of etiquette, a lot of respect, right, towards other people. Let me see, there's a question here. Removing body hair. There's many questions. Is removing body hair haram? Removing body hair, that is, okay, there are a few types. Right, body hair that is necessary for you to remove, and in fact is highly makruh if you don't remove, right, will be the hair that is under your arms, right, and your armpits, and between your legs, your pubic region. That one you must remove, right, at least once every 40 days. That's so quite disgusting, like if you don't remove once every 40 days, right? But if that one you must remove, okay, right, under the armpits and between the legs, the private region, the pubic region. Other than that, for women, this is for women, hair that grows on your face that makes you look like a man, right? So there are some women, they have hair growing at the lips, right? Some women have hair growing here, right, at the chin, right? Some women have hair growing in between, making the eyebrows joined like that. Right? So this kind of hair, and some women, like, they have a lot of hair on their arms and their legs. Right? It is like a lot of hair. Right? So this kind of hair, it makes the woman seem manly, right? Especially the facial hair. Right? You look manly because it's something that women don't have. Men have it, but some women have it. Right? So this kind of hair, you are allowed to remove, especially if you feel that it's very obvious, the misai, right, or the mustache is very obvious. Right? So you can remove the hair. Right, so that you can maintain looking female, right, feminine. You can do that. However, shaving the eyebrows, plucking or shaving the eyebrows, trying to shape the eyebrows, that one haram. Right, because the Prophet ﷺ has already cursed, on the people who they try and pluck or they try and shave the eyebrows. That's not allowed. The uni part can, if your eyebrows join. Right, if your eyebrows join somehow or other, you can remove the joint part because that is manly, like a man. Right? But other than that, you need to not remove the ones here and here. Right? Okay, another question. I've been wondering if texting a guy is haram, though your intention is not to flirt. What is your intention then? Right. So if your intention is to work on a project, right, or you have to, like, schoolwork lah, or to ask about CCA, and you have nobody else you can ask, or like you have to work with so and so because of the project that you're working on, right, that you've been paired, or in the same group, right, then you have to be clear on your intentions. So if you're texting the guy, right, or he's texting you, it's not for chatting. It's like, like chatting, empty chatter, or like, playing or being friends or whatsoever, but it is basically you're doing it because of you have to work on a project, right, together. Then try and do it in a group lah. I don't know whether schools make people pair up 2 and 2 on projects. I think they do it in groups, can. So groups, you can do it on a group chat. You don't have to do 1-on-1, right? So okay. So I hope that one is clear. Right? So even if you don't intend to flirt, it has to be, if it's unnecessary, then you must stay away from it. Right? So you have to ask yourself, what is necessary, what's not necessary. Because while initially it could be not to flirt, or not because you're interested in the boy, you don't know on their side. Right? You don't know on that side that what will happen, or that for you maybe initially there was no intention, right, to do anything dosa or sinful. But shaitan is always there. Shaitan is ever ready. Right? He's there to whisper all that he can whisper, right? And he will always work on women a lot. Shaitan works on women to have women like have crushes, and then suka like so and whatever. Shaitan is very 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 fast. Don't underestimate shaitan. He's very fast. So straight away he will go right into your heart, and he will try and whisper things to you, right, and make things okay when it's not okay. Right, so and then eventually, like, people go into depression, they go into heartbreak, they go into difficulty, they go into all kinds of problems because shaitan messes with them. Right. There's a question here, a lot of questions today, alhamdulillah. And what if you have a deep voice versus going for surgery for a deep voice? Okay, if you naturally already have a deep voice, and I think my voice is quite deep also. It has a deepness to it. I don't have a high pitch. My kitty has a higher pitch voice. A very very girl voice, my kitty. But I know my voice can be quite deep. But it still sounds like a girl, kan? You wouldn't think it's a boy talking. I think for men, their deepness is different. It's very gruff, right? For men, like if I hear my brother speak, all like very, like you hear a very deep. It can't possibly be a girl, lah. But if a girl is born that way, and she has this very gruff, voice, that's okay, right? It doesn't make her male. Right? She just have a very deep voice. It's okay, right? Especially if she speaks. I don't know. I've not met a woman whose voice is so deep it sounds like a man. I've not met any woman. Have you all met any woman whose voice is so deep it sounds like a man? I have not met anybody so far. Even as deep as their voice. What's this? Yagi Miyato. Who's that? I don't know. Is this I'm not so sure who is that. Who's that, Husna? Yagi Miyato. No.
Is this like girl? She like any boy ASMR. Her voice can go so deep, she can come out at night.
Or she can change her voice lah. It's not her natural. It's not her normal voice lah.
No.
So she can do it. That she can she can fake it, right?
Yeah.
So the one, if it's part of their job, if they're voice artists and they use their voice to be like over voice for cartoon characters. Now I know, that one is their own job. So as long as you're not doing it, trying or like to change their life from a female to a male, they're not doing it, but they're doing it like just doing their job basically lah. That's fine, and because it's a job, right? So if let's say, like, even if I were to act, and I mean sometimes if you see online, I've had the children act, and then sometimes the little girls, they will act as boys, as men, and because it's like inappropriate for the boys and the girls to act together very close, right? So if you saw online, I've had this story of Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of Rasulullah SAW, or Halimatul Sa'adiyah and her husband. So one of the girls, Lulu, she's very girl, this is a very girlish girl. Right, but she we put a bit on her, and we put like a sarban, and then she wear a cloak. It's acting. She's not really trying to be a man. She's too girlish to be a man anyway. Right, she's very girlish. That's fine. It's acting. Right? Even if somebody were to act as a kafir, or someone were to act as, our scholars have said that if it's acting, and your whole point is you're trying to teach people about the seerah of Rasulullah SAW, then it's okay. You can act in that way, right? As long as it's clear lah. They're not trying to be a boy. Just trying to. But for the boys, they don't want to act. They don't want to wear clothes to be a girl. They won't do that. For the girls, they don't mind. The girls, they will do it. I think even in girls' school, when you all do acting, and there's no boys around, that you do have like those in your class who will wear the jango, and then they become like the Abdul Muttalib, or they become like the people of the Sirah, kan? Possible, right? That they act in that way. And when I was in TKJS, there will be of the girls who would act in as like a teacher, especially during Teachers' Day lah, the girls would act as one of the male teachers, and they will buat kelakar, they make funny things. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, we finished that book. I want to go on a bit into this book. I want to ask you all. You all prefer to have it 1 hour? Because I think online 1.5 hours macam very long. Right? Or you all not long. Or you all want 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours will end at Maghrib lah, 7 o'clock. I mean 7:45 finish. I hope everybody here has already prayed Asar. Honestly, I worry because I stopped at 7:06. I stopped at 6:30 because I scared that there are people here who have not prayed Asar yet, and they're gonna pray Asar after the class. So you're gonna pray Asar after the class, then you better go and pray Asar. Like, if you have not prayed Asar yet, or if you already prayed Asar, then it's okay lah. But you should have enough time, kan? We start at 5:30. I hope you have enough time to pray Asar. Asar came in at 4:30, 1 hour. But I don't know what time you all come home from school, so kan. Okay, let me just continue with the class. This one on the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, so the last time round we just finished a little bit, maybe 10 more minutes, right, and then we can stop the class there. Okay, so that those who have to pray Asar can go and pray Asar. Okay, we were at the part of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Okay, we finished the story about who? About Sayyidina Zaid, about Sayyidina Khadijah. Where were we? Who remembers? Where have we reached? He married Sayyidina Khadijah. We went through that part, kan? Whereby Maisara, the slave boy, right, came. What books do I use? I use this book. They don't actually look very interesting. It's all white. This is the book. Somebody asked the question, what books do I use? This is the other book that I use. This one. And you can get it from other books. But this is the book that I use for but it's all in Arabic, so, but inshallah I'm translating it. I actually can show you all one book that I'm doing. I share screen. I'm doing this book, but it's a primary 5 text. I have not finished doing it, so it's meant for like Masjid Khalid kind of teaching, but for primary 5 lah. So I teach fiqh, I teach Aqidah, and I teach Sirah, right, the story of Sayyidina Salman Al-Farsi, the man who was enslaved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so all not done yet, still in the making. Right, so if let's say I think that I can use it, this primary 3. Let me just see. Okay, I think I can share the other one. I've been using one Sirah book that with you all. Let me show it to you all. This one, textbooks, year 3. Okay, year 2. Okay, this one. Let me share it. Let me share this one. Okay, Susan. Right. I mentioned somewhere here if you want. The first migration to Abyssinia. No, not yet. Here. Abu Lahab. When Rasulullah first got his first revelation. I think I'm here with you all. Right? Hajar Aswad, we went through the story again about the black stone. So you can go backwards this way. I think it's easier if you all have a text in front of you. Is it? The easier lah, then you can follow the story. Right? So we were actually here on the marriage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a young man in Mecca. Right? So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a young man in Mecca. You can see it in the PDF. I'm sharing the correct screen, right? Yes, I am. Okay. Right. Growing up in Mecca, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a very good conduct and behavior. He never did any inappropriate or bad acts. He never lied, and he was hardworking. When he reached adulthood, the people of Mecca, the Quraysh, called him As-Sadiq al-Amin, which means the truthful and the honest. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So those who claim to be in the path of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those who claim to want to be together with him on the day of judgment and in the next world, in the highest parts of paradise, then we must try our best to be like this, to have the traits of As-Sadiq al-Amin. as far as we can, we must try to have, we must be truthful and honest. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, so he said when he never did any inappropriate or bad acts, even though the people of his time, when he was growing up, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was growing up, there was once the Quraysh, right, the people of Mecca, they were fixing the Kaaba. The Kaaba actually fell, collapsed a few times, because the Kaaba was built by Nabi Ibrahim thousands of years ago. Right, so during these years, from Nabi Ibrahim's time all the way until Rasulullah's time, right, that there was flood, and there was like heavy rain and all kinds of weather issues that happened to the Kaaba. The Kaaba was exposed to a lot of weather, very hard weather. Right, so the Kaaba broke. It's just natural that the walls will break apart because it's an ancient building. If you've ever seen really old buildings, the walls break apart. They fall apart. They can't last forever. So the Kaaba itself also did not maintain its shape as how Nabi Ibrahim built it. But the Kaaba began to fall apart here and there. So there was one time whereby, it's a story, whereby Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was around the age of 10 years old, around there, 10 years old, and they were fixing one part of the wall of the Kaaba, and the young boys were all helping carry the stones. Right, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, let's see, show them. My cat is on the. Maybe I can see her. She's right there. Just listen to the classes. Okay, anyway, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he saw the boys and he was helping them out lah, with the building of the Kaaba. So he was carrying the stones on his shoulder, like this, on his shoulder. And one of his uncles said to him, and he was a young boy, 10 years old. The other boys they all wear sarung, so that in normals, in old societies or olden day societies, ancient societies, they will wear sarung. They don't wear pants. They wear sarung around their waist, and it usually come up to their knees. So it's like if you've ever seen this kind of like kampung, especially in India or in Malaysia, in Thailand, right, whereby they wear a sarung, the men and the young boys wear a sarung until their knees, and they usually don't wear a shirt, and they usually go around, and they're very poor in the first place. So they usually just wear they call it a waistcloth, waist, a waistcloth, a loincloth, right, around the waist. Right, so the other boys had taken off their sarung, right, and they folded the sarung into like a folded cloth, a layer, and put it on their shoulder so they can carry the stone on their shoulder and it won't hurt them. Because you can imagine if you take a rough stone, very hard rough stone, and you put it directly onto your shoulder and the skin is exposed. So it's not so cloth in between. It's just your flesh, your skin is there, and you put the stone on top. It's going to rub against your skin. It's going to be very painful. Correct. So the boys had taken off their, and they only actually have only one piece of clothing. They don't have like a lot of cloths for them to use. They have only one cloth, and that's around their waist. That's all they have. They're very poor. So they took off their cloth on their waist, and they folded it up, and they put it on their shoulder, and they put the stone on top of that cloth, and they carried the stone in that way. So and that was to stop the pain from hitting the shoulder. So one of the uncles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw that Rasulullah was carrying the stone on his bare shoulders, right, with his cloth still around his waist. So the uncle said to him, "Oh Muhammad, you're just 10 years old, right? And anyway, at that time people used to tawaf around the Kaaba naked. So for them to be naked is not a big deal." In our time, unfortunately, also it's becoming not a big deal, because online, all kinds of nakedness online, and they have like nudist beach and everything on in our time. A lot of nonsense in our time. Right? But in that time, same thing also. Human beings used to go around completely unclothed. They used to tawaf the Kaaba naked, right? And they say, they're being in their natural state, but they're being foolish lah. Shaitan has really deceived them. So the uncle said to him, why don't you take off your waistcloth and then do as what the boys are doing and put it on your shoulder? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, no, I can't. Like he was so shy. Right? He will not show his aurat at all, even as 10 years old. He will not show his aura. He said, I would rather carry this on my shoulder, my bare shoulder, and have it bleeding and like melicit, that the skin will be cut off, rubbed off and everything, right, and blistered and all that, than to take off my my waistcloth to put it on my shoulder. So he refused. So he refused to do that. And that was one of his, very noble behavior that he had. When he was a teenager, he actually joined a movement. They also have movements, in the time of Rasulullah. They have organizations to protect the rights of people. Right? So he joined a group of people who came together to protect the rights of foreigners who came to Mecca. Right? Because what happened was that there was a businessman who came to Mecca, and this businessman was working or dealing with Abu Jahl. Right? And Abu Jahl cheated him of his money. So Abu Jahl is before Islam. So Abu Jahl took the things, and refused to pay. So the man kept, demanding from Abu Jahl, give me my money. You took my stuff. Pay up. And he says, what stuff? What money? I don't know what you're talking about. So he has denied the entire thing. And the man said, no, you bought my stuff from me. Pay up. And Abu Jahl said, what are you going to do? Huh? You're a foreigner. And Abu Jahl is a big bully. So Abu Jahl, he was like, well, I am of the powerful people in Mecca. You can't get to me, and you can't force me to pay you, to pay up whatever I owe you. And so Abu Jahl was doing that to the man, right? And then he said to the man, you have no tribe in Mecca, you have no family in Mecca, nobody will support you, right? So he's a foreigner. The man is a foreigner. So Abu Jahl refused to pay. So the man went to the Kaaba, and the man shouted at the top of his voice. He said, oh, people of Mecca, what is this? A foreigner comes to your land, and you don't know how to be truthful, and you don't know how to be just and fair, right? To foreigners coming to your land, and what kind of behavior is this? And so he was so upset with Abu Jahl. So when a few of the Quraysh, people of Mecca, heard what he said, they came together, a group of young men, and one of them was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was in his 20s, a young man. Right? They came together and they said that we will form a group whereby we will be the tribe and the family of all foreigners who come into Mecca. So if anybody is mistreated in Mecca, they can come to us, and we will demand their rights from whoever is mistreating them. And Rasulullah was part of that group. Right? So he was one of those people who had a very good sense of justice and society. Right? So, and one last story before we stop there about Rasulullah and his youth, right, was that there was once his young friends, and he was a teenager in Mecca, or in his 20s. His young friends in Mecca invited him to go for a party. And don't think that partying happened in our time. Partying has been going on since Nabi Adam's time. So the human beings have been partying a lot because shaitan ideas. Shaitan has been teaching human beings how to party, and drink alcohol and do all kinds of really bad things. So they came to Rasulullah one day, his friends. He had one friend who said to him, come with me to this party, whereby we have music, and then there's going to be women, and there's going to be alcohol. Come to the party and just hear the music. So Rasulullah SAW, at first he would not go, right? He would just reject. He doesn't go. So eventually, they kept pestering him as a young man. They kept pestering him. Say, come, just come. It's one time. You like it, just come, right? So he said, okay, I will come. This one time. But that time he was supposed to go, right? That night itself, Allah made that he fell asleep. He fell asleep through the night, right? So in the morning, when the friend said to him, where were you last night? He said, oh, I fell asleep. And then the friend said, okay, come tomorrow. Right? He says, okay. And then the next night, Allah made him sleep again. Through the night, he fell asleep. And Allah protected the Prophet _alaihi wasallam. He fell asleep. And then the friend the next morning said, where were you last night? And he said, oh, I fell asleep. And then he said, come tonight, to the party. And then he said, okay. So, but then he fell asleep again. 3 nights in a row, he fell asleep right through. And Allah did not let him take part in any of these activities. Right? So eventually he gave up lah. He said, I'm not going there. I think I just don't want to go there. Right? So I'm not able to go. Right? So he just rejected. So as a young man, while other people were drinking and going after women and partying and doing and gambling and doing all kinds of nonsense, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stayed away from any of these things. Right? He was upright, he was virtuous, he was a good person, and he was respected by the people of Mecca. And that's why he earned the name As-Sadiqul Amin sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. Right, Alhamdulillah. Right, so he was named as such because he always spoke the truth and never lied even once in his life. He was honest and was good to everybody. Everybody in Mecca loved him. When Rasulullah SAW was a child, he worked as a shepherd for the people of Mecca. All prophets were shepherds because this job teaches them patience. When the Prophet ﷺ reached adulthood, he shared a business with his friend As-Sa'ib ibn Abi Sa'ib. His reputation as a very truthful businessman grew quickly. So we knew of the time of Rasulullah ﷺ, to the point that this news reached the ears of a very rich and honorable businesswoman, right, who called him to work for her. She was none other than our mother, Sayyidah Khadija. Right, she asked him to work for her, and when she heard from Maisara, her slave boy, about all the stories I went through with you all then, the stories about what he saw about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, she proposed marriage, right, to him. So she was attracted by his honesty, truthfulness, and exceptional qualities that were displayed by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She knew he was a very special person, and she wanted to marry him. She spoke to her uncle, who spoke to Abu Talib, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, and they agreed to get married. Right? He was 25 years old and she was 40 years old. They loved each other very much, and in fact, she was the most beloved wife to Rasulullah ﷺ. He never loved anybody the way he loved Sayyidah Khadija. And he will always remember her till the end of his life. He would never forget her. Even though when he saw her necklace one day, right, he began to weep and began to cry, because of remembering the days that he was with Sayyidah Khadija. Right, so Prophet Muhammad SAW had 2 sons and 4 daughters with Sayyidah Khadija. His sons are the names Al-Qasim, Abdullah Tahir Al-Tayyib. Daughters are Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, and Fatimah Al-Zahra. Right, many years later, he had another son named Ibrahim, but from another woman named Maria. Right, so all of his sons passed away young when they were still toddlers, and all prophets go through difficulty, and they go through suffering in life. Right, and they're the ones who never complain, and they're always thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, inshallah, we will stop here for today. Inshallah, next week we'll continue. I will text on the group, see what is the best timing or best day for you all, and then you see if you can do any adjustments or if we need to do any adjustments. Okay, there are no questions. We'll stop here for today. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. أن الله يرزقنا علما نافعا وعملا خاتما مقبولا مستدعا ودلالة على الهدى ويسر به قلب النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم، وإلى أرواح معلمين مشايخنا وذوي الحق علينا، وإلى